Hello everyone, I am Aditi. Welcome to my channel, My Classroom. Today we'll be learning about tenses, a very simple chapter. But it may seem confusing to many because we do not know the proper formulas or its proper usage. Hope this video will help you to clear all your doubts regarding tenses. So, let's begin. So what is tense? Why do we at all use tense in English language? Tense is used to denote time. Time of what? Time of an action, and as we all know, action word is a verb. So whenever we are learning tenses, we need to keep in mind two very important things, the time and the verb. Whenever the verb and its form changes and the time of the sentence changes, the tense of the sentence is bound to change. Let us look at an example. Look at these three sentences. Sentence A, B and C. First we'll mark the things which remain the same in the three sentences, and then we'll mark the words which change in the three sentences. So, the things which remains the same, I, the subject of the sentence. And another thing which remains the same, the object, English. And the words which changes, teach. Teach is what? A verb. See, the form of the verb changes in the three sentences. Teach becomes taught and it becomes will teach in the third sentence. And what changes? The time changes. Yesterday, tomorrow. And this I teach English, it's a continuous work. So, this is present. Yesterday, I left behind. Past. Tomorrow, I am going to live it tomorrow. So, future is my future. So there are three main forms of tenses, the present form, the past form and the future form. There are more subdivisions, we'll go into the details, and we'll also take a look at the tense chart where we learn about the formulas of various tense forms and how to use them in framing sentences. Let us now look at the tense table. So there are 12 tenses in total. The main being the present, the past and the future tenses, and each of them has been further subdivided into 4 more types: the simple, the continuous, the perfect and the perfect continuous tenses. I have also given the uses for each tense, but we'll discuss the uses and details. Let us first learn about the rules of framing sentences with each tense. I have also given an example with each. So first we have the simple present tense. The rule is subject plus verb in its first form plus s or es. When do we use s or es with a verb? Whenever the subject is singular, we use s or es with a verb. See in the example, she is singular, so the verb becomes speaks. But if the subject is plural, for example, they, the verb remains as it is. They speak. But the only exception to the rule is when we use I or you. Though in this case the subject is singular, the verb remains as it is, that is I speak or you speak. It is never I speaks or you speaks. So s or es is used with only third person singular subject and not with first or second person singular subject. Thus, it is she speaks or he speaks, but never I speaks or you speaks. It is I speak or you speak. Second, we come the simple past tense. The rule is subject plus verb in its second form or an irregular verb. I spoke, they spoke, she spoke. Here there is no need to use s or es with a verb. Third, we come to the future simple tense. Here the rule is subject plus will or shall plus verb in its first form. Now when do we use will and when do we use shall? I will discuss this in my next video where I will discuss in details about the forms and uses of verbs. So in this case, I shall speak, you will speak. Next we come to the present continuous tense. Here the rule is subject plus is or am or are plus verb in its first form plus ing. Now when do we use is or am or are? Is with singular subjects, are with plural subjects, and am with I. So I am speaking, she is speaking. Speak is the verb in its first form plus ing, which becomes the participle form of the verb. Second we come to the past continuous tense. Here the rule is subject plus was or were, was in case of singular, were in case of plural, plus verb in its first form plus ing. Notice here the subject, the verb form and the ing remains the same in both the present continuous and the past continuous tenses. The only thing that changes is or am or are becomes was or were in case of past. The third is future continuous tense. Subject plus will be or shall be plus verb in its first form plus ing. Next we come to the present perfect tense. Subject plus has or have. Again, has in case of singular subject, have in case of plural subject. But the exception is I and you, because we use have with I and you. I have, you have, though here the subject is singular. And verb in its third form, that is the past participle form of the verb. I have spoken, she has spoken. Next is the past perfect tense. Subject plus had plus verb in its third form. Here also, like in the previous one, the subject and the verb form remains the same. The has or have becomes had in the past tense. Had will go with I, she, singular, plural, any subject. Third is the future perfect tense. Subject plus will have plus verb in its third form. Here also the subject and the verb form remains the same. Had becomes will have. So I shall have spoken or she will have spoken. The last one is the perfect continuous tense. So first is the present perfect continuous tense. The rule is subject plus has or have plus been. Here we are adding a been with has or have plus verb in its first form plus ing. See, in the perfect tense, it was subject plus has, have and verb in its third form. In the perfect continuous tense, you are adding a been and the verb becomes the first form and ing, that is the participle form. Next we come to the past perfect continuous tense. The rule is subject plus had been plus verb in its first form plus ing. See, the subject, been, verb form remains the same. The has or have becomes had in the past tense. Next, we come to the future perfect continuous tense. The rule is subject plus will have been. So, had been becomes will have been plus verb in its first form plus ing. Here, will have been will be shall have been in case of I and we. Now, look at the tense chart. So this is the entire tense table. We'll learn about the present tense in details today. In the next video, we'll be discussing the past and the future tenses and comparing it with the present tense. Now that we have learned the rules of framing sentences with each tense, let us now frame sentences, and today we'll be focusing on the present tense. So for framing sentences, we need three main things: verb, subject and object. So verb, I am taking play. Subject I am taking they, and object I am taking football. So coming to the simple present tense first, the rule is we have learned subject plus verb in its first form plus s or es. S or es is used only when the subject is singular. So subject here is they, verb here is play, and the object is football. We do not need an s or es with the verb here because the subject is not singular, it is a plural subject. Second, the continuous tense. The rule is subject plus is, am or are plus verb in its first form plus ing. So subject, they. We will use are plus verb in its first form, play, ing. And the object, football. So they are playing football. Next, the perfect tense. Subject plus has or have, verb in its third form or the past participle form. Subject again is they. Has or have, as it is a plural subject, they have. Verb in its third form, the third form of the verb plays, played. Football. For, I'm adding this, 2 years. And perfect continuous tense, subject plus has or have, we are adding a been here, verb in its third form and ing. So subject again they, plus plural is have, been, play plus ing, football, for 20 years, this I am adding. You see, we've easily framed 4 types of tenses using the rules we have learned. So when is the present tense used? First, focusing on the simple tense. So simple present tense is used to denote habitual action. For example, a person going for a morning walk will say, I go for a walk every morning. Second, general truths. The sun rises in the east. Number 3, an exclamation. Here she comes. Express a future event that is fixed. The train leaves at 5:10 p.m. Now here the train usually leaves every day at 5:10 p.m. So we say the train leaves at 5:10 p.m. But if the train doesn't usually leave at 5:10 p.m. but on that very day it is leaving at 5:10 p.m. we will not use the simple present tense. So what will we write? The train will leave at 5:10 p.m. We'll use the future tense instead. Next is the continuous tense. So the present continuous tense is used to denote an action is in progress at the time of speaking. I am teaching. So the action is in progress. I am teaching now. Number 2, the temporary action which may not be going on at the time of speaking. Nowadays I am reading Bond. Bond in the sense a book written by Ruskin Bond. So I am not reading the book at this very moment, but I am reading it now. So nowadays I am reading Bond. Number 3, action already arranged before. I am going to teach tense today, which was pre-decided. Now look at this example closely. I am going to teach tense today. According to the rules we have learned, we know that in continuous tense, we use the first form of the verb plus an ing. But in this, you see, we just use the first form of the verb. We do not add an ing with it. Teach. Instead, we add the going to form. So whenever we are using the going to form in a sentence, we do not add an ing with the verb. The verb remains as it is in its first form. If we conform to the rules and frame a sentence, then an example would have been, my uncle is arriving today. Next is the perfect tense. So the present perfect tense is used to indicate completed activities in the immediate past. I have just taught continuous tense. See, I really have taught continuous tense just now. So I have just taught continuous tense. It has taken place in the immediate past. Number 2, past actions whose time is not given. He has gone out. We don't know when he has gone out, but he has gone out. Number 3, action beginning in the past and continuing up to the present. Here the most important word is up to. The word up to states that the action may or may not be continuing in the present moment. For example, I have taught tense for 10 years. I may teach tense again, I may not teach tense again. It does not state that. But till the present moment, up to the present moment, I have taught tense for 10 years. Comparing it with the perfect continuous tense, which states an action which began sometime in the past and it's still continuing. That is, the action is continuing at the time of speaking or in the present moment. For example, I have been teaching tense for 10 years necessarily mean that I continue to teach tense even now. So this is the difference between the perfect continuous and the perfect tense. That is, though both begins in the past, this also begins sometime in the past, This continues up to the present, while the perfect continuous tense still continues in the present moment. Let us look at another example. She has painted the room. She has been painting the room. In sentence 1, she has painted the room. It indicates a completed activity. She has already painted the room. But in sentence 2, she has been painting the room. An ongoing activity is indicated. She is still painting the room. Thus, another difference between the perfect and the perfect continuous tenses, whereas in perfect tense, a completed activity is indicated. In perfect continuous tense, an ongoing activity is indicated. I've drawn a time scale here, and we will place each of these tenses in the time scale. So for the simple present tense, it takes place always at the very moment. So we'll place it here. So the time frame for the simple present tense is this. The continuous tense, which is continuing into the future. So the time frame for the continuous tense is from the present into the future. The perfect tense. The perfect tense always takes place sometime in the past and continues up to the present. So it will begin sometime in the past and will continue up to the present. It may end anywhere in between, but the maximum time limit is up to the present. So this is the perfect tense. And the perfect continuous tense, the present perfect continuous tense, begins sometimes in the past. It continues through the present into the future. So this is the perfect continuous tense, the time frame for the perfect continuous tense. See, we have placed each of these 4 tenses into the time scale to know the exact time frame for each. So that's all for today. I'll be meeting you in the next video where I'll be discussing in detail about the past and the future tenses, and I'll be comparing those with the present tense. Till then, bye.